A perfect example about the type of person who has now been elevated to the second most powerful job in the country. And no, it's not Penny Wong. We learnt today about how Adam Bandt plans to represent his country by not representing his country. As you know, when Peter Dutton gives a press conference, he does so in front of the Australian flag. When the Prime Minister gives a press conference, he does so in front of the Australian, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags. Notice the Australian flag on the far left, not in the middle of the three flag setup. But Adam Bandt today gave a press conference as the new co-leader of Australia where the Australian flag was removed entirely, pushed off to one side. Apparently, a symbol of hurt. Here is why Adam Bandt explains that the flag of the country of which he is not just a member but a legislator in a position to decide what laws will govern all of us, that he can't stand in front of our national flag.
You chose not to stand in front of the Australian flag. Why is that?
Well, I think we've got a lot of work to do in this country to tell the truth. We've got a lot of work to do to overcome the racism and dispossession that many First Nations and Torres Strait Islander and Indigenous people face. We should start to fly the First Nations flags in Parliament. It's time to understand that the history of this country and the symbols that represent the history of this country are very hurtful to the First Nations people of this country.
Of course, it doesn't matter how you feel about the symbol of our nation, the single greatest immigration experiment in the history of the planet. That symbol is to be pushed to one side. Now, no one is at all pretending that by flying the Australian flag it's some sort of white pride or middle finger to the obvious atrocities that happened in the early years of the country that became Australia. No one is pretending that we haven't had major issues that took too long to be considered about everything from Mabo to the right to vote. The idea that terra nullius was still something within living memory of many Australians is, of course, not acceptable. But the very country that was able to be as peaceful as ours, that was able to recognise its past, that has the power to prepare for its future, is the flag represented by the Australian flag. Now, this person, I repeat, is in a position now to decide what becomes a law or not. A party that got about 10% of the vote will now decide what the government of the day will be able to pass. So these people who hate Australia, who hate the modernity that is only possible because of the path that Australia has taken, well, they now sit on both sides of the fence. They hate the symbols, but they'll take the money. They hate the symbols, but they will sit on top of the power structure that they claim to be so profoundly racist. Adam Bandt did not give up his place in power for a person who is Indigenous. Instead, he just says, because I'm the woke white guy, they won't come for me come the revolution. Can I tell you exactly how much money you are now going to be spending on a bigger Greens party than ever before? Adam Bandt gets $314, thanks to the most recent pay rise, and $1,000, a maximum of $65,000 for expenses. He can be a little more because he's a party leader, but a total of $380,237 Australian dollars. But he won't stand in front of the symbol of the very country that pays him, of which a parliament he sits in order to tell us all how we should live. When it comes to Greens MPs and senators, a backbencher is paid $217,000, a maximum of expenses, depending on the size of your electorate or your responsibilities, $65,000. That's a total of $282,000 per MP and senator. So with 12 senators and 3 MPs, apart from Adam Bandt, their total now is $4,070,000. Once you put together Adam Bandt's salary and all of this, you, before we even start, are paying the Greens $4.4 million. $4.4 million to tell us daily how racist, how sexist, how transphobic, how nasty the traditions are of this country, while they sit under the modernity that is only possible because of it, with maximum ability to change it. Elections have consequences. And this election has given greater power to some of the dumbest people in Parliament.
Stop opening up new coal and gas projects.
Angry people do that to innocent people. Is it not enough that you're locking up innocent people?
They have blood on their hands. They have the blood of the people who were trapped in their flooded homes or burned to death trying to run away from a raging bushfire.
Well, I lined up into the express lane to, board the plane, and I was standing there for 7 minutes, completely ignored.
Interesting how that complaint went nowhere, wasn't it? Oh, that's right, because as we told you, she wanted to take a bag that was bigger than the amount you're allowed to take when it comes to overhead luggage. An election stunt that the media fell for and that they repeated.